I was 31 years old, married for 6 years, and I had never once carried a pregnancy past 3 months. Every time the blood came, every time another piece of my marriage died with it. My husband Chukwudi stopped touching me the way a man touches a woman he still has hope for. He started touching me the way a man touches something fragile he has already begun grieving. But none of that, none of the hospitals, none of the prayers, none of the tears prepared me for what I found in my mother's room. The night I discovered the truth, I understood that my suffering was not an accident. It was a transaction, and my mother was the one who signed it. My name is Obiageli, but my mother called me Adora, her precious daughter, her only child, the one she said she would die for. I believed her for 31 years. I believed every word she ever spoke to me. That was my first mistake. It began with the dreams, not nightmares exactly, something worse than nightmares, because nightmares end when you wake up. These didn't. Every night for 6 weeks, I dreamed of a river, black water, no current, no sound, and standing at the edge of that river, a woman wrapped in white, her back always toward me. I called to her. She never turned, but every time I stepped closer, my stomach cramped, the kind of cramp that announced another loss was coming. I woke up from those dreams already bleeding. 3 times, 3 losses in 6 weeks. Chukwudi stopped asking what the doctor said. He just sat in the corner of our room at night, looking at the wall. I knew what that silence meant. A man can love a woman completely and still leave her, especially when everyone in his family is whispering. My mother came to stay with us after the 3rd loss. She arrived with food, with prayers, with her hands on my face and her tears on my forehead. "My daughter," she said, "God will do it. Don't cry." I held on to her and cried anyway, because that is what daughters do. They run back to their mothers, even when the danger is the mother herself. It was the 4th week of her visit, 3 in the morning. I woke from the river dream gasping, cramping, reaching for Chukwudi, who wasn't there. He had started sleeping in the other room. I went to the kitchen for water. On my way back, I passed my mother's door. It was open by 3 inches. Not unusual. She kept it slightly open for air. But there was a light inside. Not the lamplight. Something else. A low reddish glow. And she was speaking, not praying. I know what my mother's prayers sound like. This was different. This was a conversation. Low, urgent, with pauses, the way you speak when something is answering you. I stood at that 3-inch gap and I heard my mother say a name, my name, Adaura. And then she said words that stopped my blood completely. She must not carry to term. Not yet. Not until I release the covenant. I did not breathe. I did not move. If she delivers before I release it, everything I built goes with the child. Silence. Then that reddish light pulsed once, like a heartbeat, and my mother said, in the voice of a person confirming a business arrangement, "I know. I agreed to this 31 years ago. The womb belongs to the shrine until I say otherwise." I walked back to my room. I sat on the edge of the bed. I did not cry. I was past crying. What I felt in that moment had no name I had ever been given. something between a scream and a collapse. I sat with it until morning, and when the sun came up, I understood three things. My losses were not medical. My mother knew, and she had known since before I was born. I waited 2 days. I needed to be sure I wasn't broken from sleep deprivation, sure I wasn't manufacturing a nightmare into reality. So I searched. While my mother was at the market, I went into her room. I moved carefully, but I moved completely. Under the bed, nothing. Inside the box she kept her old wrappers in, nothing. Behind the wooden shelf, a small black cloth bag tied with red cord. I opened it. Inside, a folded piece of brown paper, old and soft, like cloth from being folded and unfolded many times. Names written in it. Mine at the top. Below mine, the name of every pregnancy I had lost, each one named, each name crossed out. Below the names, a symbol I did not recognize, and at the bottom of the bag, a small photograph. My mother, younger, standing before a shrine I had never seen, with a man I did not know, both of them with their palms pressed flat on the shrine stone, both of them looking directly at the camera, neither of them smiling. I put everything back exactly as I found it. I walked to the sitting room. I sat down and I waited for my mother to come home. She came in laughing, carrying mangoes, calling my name warmly the way she always did. She came into the sitting room and saw my face. Her laughter stopped. Adaora, sit down, Mama. Something in my voice. She sat. I looked at her for a long time without speaking. She looked back at me, and I watched something move behind her eyes. Not guilt exactly, not yet. Fear. The specific fear of someone who has been keeping a secret so long they forgot the secret had an ending. Tell me about the shrine, I said. The mangoes fell from her hands. She tried three things before she told the truth. First, she asked what I was talking about. I said nothing. Then she told me I was stressed from the losses and needed rest. I said nothing. Then she started to cry, told me I was breaking her heart with my suspicion. I said nothing. I had nothing left to waste on those performances. I simply looked at her, and the silence was heavier than any accusation. Finally, she broke. Not dramatically, not with a speech. She broke the way old structures break. Suddenly, completely. Her face fell into her hands, and from behind those hands, muffled and destroyed. I was 22. I waited. Your father had left. I had nothing. No money. No family support. I was pregnant with you, and I had nothing. A woman in the village took me to someone. She said there was a way to protect my future, to guarantee I would never suffer again, that my line would be powerful. I didn't understand what I was agreeing to. Mama, I understood later. Her voice cracked. I understood when you were born, and he told me what the covenant meant, that your womb was the price, that you could only carry when he released the covenant, that every pregnancy that came before his permission, she couldn't finish, I finished for her, would die. She wept. I sat in the hardest silence of my life because I wanted to hold her. She was my mother. For 31 years, she had been my whole world, and she had sold the most intimate part of me before I was old enough to know I had it. How many times did you go to him? I asked. She was quiet. How many times, Mama? Every year. I stood up. Every year? He required renewal. Every harvest, or everything would be reversed. Everything I had built. Me. My voice was barely sound. Everything you built was me. I was what you traded. She reached for my hand. I stepped back. Not in anger, in the specific grief of someone who needs space between themselves and the thing that is destroying them. 6 pregnancies, Mama. She wept harder. 6. I did not leave the house that night. I had nowhere to go. And leaving felt like running from something I had been running from for 6 years without knowing what it was. That night was the longest of my life. I lay in my room and I felt the weight of 31 years rearranging itself. Every memory of my mother reviewing itself. Every sacrifice she made for me, asking a new question now. Was it love or was it management? Was she protecting me or protecting the investment? I didn't know. That was the thing that broke me most. I genuinely didn't know. What happened next came from outside our control, because covenants built on human suffering have their own timeline. 3 days after the confession, my mother woke up screaming, not from a bad dream. She woke up looking at something in the room that I could not see, her body rigid, her eyes fixed on a corner of the ceiling, saying the same word over and over, not a word I recognized. I called for help. The neighbors came. By morning, the village knew something had entered their Daisy compound. Her hair went grey in 4 days, not gradually, in patches, like something was taking color from her from the inside. She stopped eating. She sat in her room and spoke to things that weren't there. She called my name constantly, but when I came, she looked through me. The village elders came. They brought a priest. He walked through the compound and stopped at my mother's room. He stood in the doorway without entering. He turned to me. "Something is collecting a debt," he said. "Has your mother made any agreement in this house?" I looked at my mother, sitting on her bed, looking at the wall. My mother, who carried me, who went hungry so I could eat, who walked miles to sell peppers so I could go to school, who also, in one terrible, desperate moment, when she was 22 and alone and terrified, traded something that was not hers to trade. "Yes," I said, "she has." The priest sat with me for 2 hours. He explained what I already knew and the parts I didn't. A covenant made in desperation is still a covenant. It doesn't care about the motivation. It only cares about the terms. And when the terms are broken, or when the person who made them can no longer maintain them, the covenant collects, not from the person who made it, from the thing that was promised, me. "Can it be broken?" I asked. He looked at me seriously. "It can be dissolved, but only if the person who made it renounces it completely, publicly, before the shrine and before witnesses." "Will she survive it?" He paused. "That depends on how much of herself she puts into the covenant over 30 years. I understood what he was telling me. Breaking the covenant might break my mother too. I went back to her room. She was lucid for the first time in 3 days, looking at me with eyes that were ashamed to be seen. I know what needs to happen, she said. Her voice was barely there. I know. Mama, I have been afraid of this moment for 31 years. She reached out and took my hand. This time, I let her. Every year I went back to that shrine because I was afraid. Afraid of losing everything. Afraid of being poor again. Afraid of being alone again. She held my hand with both of hers. I told myself it was for you, that I was protecting our family. But the truth, her voice broke completely. The truth is, I was a coward, and you paid for my cowardice with 6 babies. She wept, and I wept, and we held each other in that room, the way mothers and daughters hold each other when the love between them is real enough to survive even the worst truth. I will go to the shrine, she said. I will renounce everything, whatever it costs me. I held her tighter. I will be there with you. She pulled back and looked at my face. Why? She asked. After everything. Because you are my mother. Her face collapsed. Because you were 22 and you were alone and you made a terrible decision. I am not excusing it. I am never going to pretend it didn't happen. But you are my mother. And I am not going to watch you face this alone. We went to the shrine on the 7th day. The priest, my mother, me, 2 village elders as witnesses. I will not describe what happened at the shrine in detail. Some things belong to the space they occurred in. What I will tell you is this. My mother stood before that shrine and she renounced every agreement she had ever made in it, with her full name, her full voice, in front of witnesses. Shaking so hard, I had to hold her arm the entire time. It took 40 minutes. When it was finished, she collapsed against me, not dramatically, the way a building settles when a load it has been carrying for decades is finally lifted. Heavy, sudden, real. She was sick for 30 days afterward. I stayed. I cooked for her. I sat beside her bed the way she had sat beside mine for 6 years of losses. On the 28th day, she asked me if I would ever fully forgive her. I thought about it honestly, the way she deserved. I don't know yet, I told her, but I am here and I am trying. She nodded. That is more than I deserve. Yes, I said, it is. And I held her hand anyway. 8 months after the shrine, I was standing in a clinic in Enugu. The doctor turned the screen toward me. A heartbeat, strong, steady, not fading, just beating, like something that intends to stay. I put my hand over my mouth. The doctor smiled. Everything looks perfect, she said. I called Chukudi from the parking lot. He didn't say anything for a long time after I told him. Then I heard him crying. My husband, who had stopped sleeping in our bed, who had stopped asking questions, who had stayed anyway, crying in the parking lot of his office in the middle of a Tuesday afternoon. Come home, he said. Just come home. My daughter was born on a Thursday morning, 7 pounds, full and healthy and furious at the world in the way new people are furious because they have just arrived and everything is overwhelming and bright and loud. My mother held her for the first time 3 days later. She held her the way a woman holds something she almost destroyed before she understood what it was, with shaking hands and absolute care and tears she didn't try to stop. I watched my mother hold my daughter, and I made peace with the fact that love and damage can live in the same person, that the person who hurts you most can also be the person who loves you most, that both of these things can be completely true, that forgiveness is not forgetting, it is not excusing, it is choosing to carry something differently so it does not crush you. I named my daughter Chisom. God is with me, because through all of it.
Subscribe to this channel. Every week, we bring you stories exactly like this one. Stories that reach into the places other content cannot touch. Turn on your notifications. Share this with someone who needs to hear it today.